Siege weaponry has been an ever-present and formidable force on the battlefield, shaping the course of history with their sheer power. However, as technology advanced, these colossal machines of war gradually faded into the background. But have you ever wondered which was the largest siege weapon ever built? Here, we look through history to explore three massive contenders for this title. One of these engineering marvels even played a pivotal yet inadvertent role in the creation of one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. Let's first look at modern history and the largest artillery piece ever constructed, which of course was built by the Germans in World War II in their constant pursuit of wonder weapons, the Schwerer Gustav gun. The history of the Gustav begins in the late 1930s when German High Command recognized the need for a super heavy artillery piece capable of destroying the most fortified enemy defenses, especially the French Maginot Line, a 300-mile stretch of fortresses, gun batteries, bunkers and minefields on the German-French border. Completed in 1941, it was the largest and heaviest artillery piece ever constructed. The gun weighed around 1,350 tons and it was over 154 feet long. Its barrel alone was 106 feet, capable of firing shells weighing 7 tons over distances of 29 miles. The projectile was designed to penetrate up to 7 meters of reinforced concrete or 30 meters of solid earth, making it a formidable weapon against fortifications. The sheer scale of this weapon required a crew of between 500 and 2,000 men to operate and lay down the necessary tracks, and it took several weeks to assemble on site. Although initially designed to be used against the Maginot Line, it was not completed in time. Despite its formidable specifications, the Gustav gun saw limited use during the war. Its most notable deployment was during the siege of Sevastopol in 1942, where it was used to bombard Soviet fortifications. Over several days, the gun fired approximately 47 shells, contributing to the eventual fall of the city. However, the logistical challenges associated with its operation, requiring extensive preparation time, railway infrastructure, and vulnerability to air attacks, limited its effectiveness on the battlefield. There were attempts to deploy it at the siege of Leningrad and the Warsaw Uprising, but in both instances, by the time the massive gun got there and was ready to be deployed, it was too late. The weapon's cumbersome nature ultimately limited its effectiveness in the fast-moving theatres of World War II, and it was eventually destroyed by the Germans so it would not fall into Russian hands. Although the largest artillery piece ever constructed, and specifically designed to target fixed fortifications and used during a siege, some purists might argue that modern military equipment aren't siege weapons, and should not be categorized with more traditional siege weapons such as battering rams, catapults, trebuchets, etc. So let's look at the largest siege weapon prior to the early modern period, the type of weapon our minds invoke when we hear the term siege weapon. The Warwolf was constructed in 1304 during Edward I's campaign to capture Stirling Castle in Scotland, a stronghold of great strategic importance in the ongoing wars of Scottish independence. Stirling Castle had withstood multiple sieges, and Edward sought to ensure its capture with a weapon that could overwhelm its defences. The Warwolf was the largest trebuchet ever built. The construction of the Warwolf was a massive undertaking involving 5 master carpenters and dozens of other workers. It took 3 months to complete, and they built it in full view of the castle's defenders. Historical accounts suggest the Warwolf stood between 300 and 400 feet tall when it was fully assembled, with a throwing arm that could launch massive stones weighing as much as 300 pounds at over 100 miles an hour. The counterweight, a crucial component of the trebuchet's mechanism, is believed to have weighed several tons, providing the necessary force to hurl projectiles with devastating power. The Warwolf's effectiveness was demonstrated during the siege of Stirling Castle. According to chronicles from the time, the mere sight of the trebuchet being constructed was enough to compel the Scottish defenders to consider surrender. However, Edward I, determined to test his new weapon, refused their initial offer and insisted on completing the construction. When finally deployed, the Warwolf unleashed its fury on the castle, causing extensive damage to the walls. It reportedly sent a projectile through 2 of the castle's walls like an arrow through 2 pieces of paper. Only after seeing how destructive the monster trebuchet was did King Edward allow the castle to surrender. Despite its impressive capabilities, the Warwolf was a single-use weapon, disassembled after the siege of Stirling Castle. Our next candidate dwarfs both the Warwolf and the Gustav in terms of sheer size. The Helepolis was constructed in 305 BC by the forces of Demetrius of Macedon during the siege of Rhodes. The name Helepolis translates to taker of cities, a fitting title for a machine designed to breach the most resilient fortifications. The Helepolis was conceived as the ultimate siege tower, intended to bring down the walls of Rhodes, a strategically important city that had resisted numerous sieges. Built under the direction of Polydius of Thessaly, a renowned military engineer, the Helepolis was an engineering marvel. It stood at approximately 130 feet tall and 65 feet wide and another 65 feet deep, and weighed 150 tons. In fact, if you laid the Helepolis down, you could almost fit the entirety of the Gustav gun inside with only the tip of the gun poking out. The tower was divided into 9 stories, each designed to house a variety of artillery and troops. The lower levels were equipped with battering rams, while the upper stories contained catapults and ballistae capable of hurling projectiles at the defenders. The Helepolis was designed to be mobile despite its immense size. It was mounted on 8 large wheels. Inside, it housed a large contingent of soldiers ready to assault the walls once the tower was close enough. Its 3 sides were covered in iron plating, meant to shield the tower from incendiary arrows and other projectiles. This protection was crucial as the defenders of Rhodes were well equipped and determined to resist the siege. Despite its formidable design, the Helepolis faced challenges during the siege. The Rhodians, recognizing the threat posed by this giant tower, devised a series of countermeasures. They dug ditches and erected barriers to impede its movement, and their archers targeted the openings in the tower. It is reported that Helepolis got stuck in the mud, and the Rhodes defenders were able to dislodge some of the iron platings, leaving the Helepolis vulnerable to fire. Helepolis was withdrawn from the siege, and the siege was eventually lifted. After the siege failed, the Helepolis and other siege weapons were abandoned. The people of Rhodes repurposed their materials and funds to build the Colossus of Rhodes, a statue of their patron god Helios, which later became known as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Although most certainly the largest of the 3 candidates, is it a siege weapon or simply a large protection device that housed smaller weapons? It isn't like the Warwolf or Gustav, which were simply offensive devices designed to target fortifications. Its primary function was to allow troops to scale walls or to provide cover while attacking fortifications, rather than being used directly in combat like a weapon such as a catapult or a ballista, although it did house such weapons. So, which do you think should be proclaimed largest ever siege weapon? The destructive Gustav, the lofty Warwolf, or the gargantuan Helepolis? One thing is for sure, bigger doesn't always mean better, as all 3 saw very limited usage and success. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Odd Historian. This is a brand new channel, so please let me know what you liked, what I could improve, and comment your favourite of the 3 siege weapons. If you like the content and would like to see more, please like and subscribe. See you next time.